Girivardha Gopijana Balabha Girivardhari Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Tira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivijagacharya Astatara Satasti Srimad His Divine Grace Easy Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Gaur Premanandi. Invites newer people to come and join with us and chant and dance and hear Krishna, message of Krishna. I decided for this Sunday just to make a little miniature summary of a topic that we've been discussing in depth for the past week. The 2 chapters from Srimad Bhagavatam, or 2 chapters from Krishna book, Pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan. And this is chapters 13 and chapter 14 of those same 2 books. And as you see on the screen here, at the bottom it says Brahma Vimohan Leela. Leela is pastime. Brahma is the personality on our left, that is with the crowns and folding his palms, offering prayers. That's Brahma. He's the according to the Vedic teachings, he's the first born living being and the chief creator of the universe. He takes the ingredients and the plan and the intelligence and the creative potency from the Supreme Lord, and he builds the universe in all of its detail. So that's Lord Brahma. And he's being the firstborn person, he receives the Vedas directly from Krishna. So he passes on the knowledge of the Vedas, the transcendental reality of everything, spiritual and material, he passes on to everybody in creation as the original grandfather of all creatures. So he's very learned, ancient, highly intelligent, wise, and a great personality. But the middle word there, vimohana, mohana means bewildered or illusioned, and vimohana, vi means, it's a prefix that means very. He became very bewildered. And that's chapter 13, and then he offers some prayers, that's chapter 14. So we'll be discussing, there's another image. So Lord Brahma's prayers come in chapter 14, and we'll be discussing the pastime that leads up to his prayers. So it begins in chapter 13 with a description of Krishna's daily pastimes as a young boy, because he was born in a village family. His father was Nanda Maharaj, and his mother pictured here, that's Yashoda. She's the queen, the king and the queen of the whole cowherd community. Their occupation was taking care of cows. And he was the king of the cowherds, Nanda, and Krishna was his son. So the son of the king of cowherds, Nanda Maharaj, went every day with his cowherd boyfriends. You see pictured here in that white complexion, that's Balaram. We know because his complexion is white like snow. He is commonly dressed in blue, like you see here. And over his shoulder, he's carrying a plow, because that's something that persons in agriculture communities would sometimes have. He would have that's his paraphernalia. Krishna's is a flute, and Balaram's is a plow. And then other cowherd boys. It only shows a few, but there were many. They weren't cows, they were very young boys, so it's just calves. And they went out in the morning, rising very early, because people that are agriculture people, that common that they would rise very early in the morning. So Krishna and his father went to take their early morning bath in Pavan Sarovar, very sacred place. And then the elder gopis would dress him and ornament him and get him ready for the day of herding calves. You see he's barefoot here. And Mother Jasoda was, a perfect mother. And mothers kind of doting on their small children. That's very affectionate and loving and natural. So he would try again and again to get ready to go, and she would have something more to add and something to do, and adjusting his belt and putting some more in his little portable lunch bag and so forth. You see hanging by his side is a nice buffalo horn. It's one of the standard paraphernalia for Krishna. Because when they would go out to herd the cows, he would blow on his buffalo horn, and then they would blow on their buffalo horns, the other boys. They would just behave like little boys. So after her doting, caring affection for Krishna finally ended, off they go into the pasturing grounds and the forests of Vrindavan. And the painting here shows Krishna leading, and the cowherd boy is also with Krishna. And according to what it's described, that just as all the cowherd boys had great affection for Krishna, so also all the calves had great affection for Krishna. So it wasn't really hurting the calves, they just followed Krishna wherever Krishna went because they were attached to him. And so what the cowherd boys would do, they would simply play. You know what little boys do, they play. And the description, this painting is showing sometimes, like over on our right, one cowherd boy would take the posture of a peacock strutting and showing his wings. Another in the middle, that's Krishna because he's got a peacock feather. He would sit in a position like a frog getting ready to jump, and the cowherd boy behind him would spread his arms like a bird that's spreading his arms ready to take flight. And they make sounds of the animals and birds and imitate them. And sometimes, here's a painting showing sometimes one of the cowherd boys, they would snatch his lunch. So that's what Krishna did. The person pictured here is Madhu Mangal, because he's a Brahmin. And you can see he has this nice Brahmin thread and Kunti Mala around his neck, and he has a nice Sika. But Krishna snatched his lunch, and Madhu Mangal went running after Krishna to get his lunch back. And then as he would get closer to Krishna, Krishna would throw it to another cowherd boy, and they'd run to the other cowherd boy who would throw it to another cowherd boy. And Madhu Mangal would become really irritated, saying, "You're taking the property of a Brahmin, and do you know how much suffering you're going to have to undergo? You give back that lunch right away, you're in big trouble." So in this way, they would play games of different kinds. In the background, you can see Govardhan Hill. There's cows grazing on the side of Govardhan Hill. Sometimes Krishna would sit underneath a tree and play upon his flute, and all the cowherd boys would sit around and simply be charmed by the sound of Krishna and his flute playing. And when they were doing like that, the cows would just hang around because they wanted to be where Krishna was, and they were also attracted to the sound of Krishna's flute. And in this way, there's pages and pages. They would just play. And then at a certain time of the day, by the side of Govardhan Hill, which you see in the background, there was this very unusual cave that they never saw before because they went on this path nearly every day. And there was this huge cave right in the middle of the path. So they were curious, what's this? We've never seen this before. So as they got closer, much to their surprise, there was this bad fishy smell coming from inside the cave. And as they got closer, it wasn't at all a cave, it was a big serpent lying on the path in the middle of the road. And they thought, well, let's go in and look around and see what's inside. And so they went dancing and frolicking inside the mouth of Aghasura, is the name of that snake demon. And Krishna's watching from a distance, thinking, oh no. And he wasn't just, oh no, about the safety of the cowherd boys. He was thinking, when Aghasura closes his mouth, then the cowherd boys won't be able to see me, and I'm their life and soul. How will they live without seeing me? The ones in the foreground, they're just looking at Krishna. And the ones that are entering into the mouth of Aghasura, they won't see Krishna. So he, for a moment, became bewildered that by his own Yogamaya potency and Then very quickly, by his will, that Yogamaya potency was withdrawn. And he knew exactly what to do. He knew what that Aghasura demon was and what he wanted. So Krishna also entered into the mouth of the demon. And the demon closed his mouth. Got him. So what did Krishna do? He's the master of all mystic powers. One of his names is Yogeshwara. Then one of the mystic powers is one can become really big and bigger and bigger and bigger. So Krishna just became bigger and bigger. And the Aghasura demon had an expandable body, so he also expanded bigger and bigger, but Krishna became bigger than he could expand, and eventually suffocated, and the soul of that Aghasura demon left his body. The mouth of the serpent opened, the cowherd boys left, Krishna left, and everyone saw the soul of Aghasura hovering in the sky and then merged into Krishna's body. He achieved that particular kind of liberation, Sayuja Mukti. And the cowherd boys were celebrating, wow, how wonderful is Krishna. Let's go have lunch. And so they went to have their lunch. They sat in a circle around Krishna, Krishna being at the center and the cowherd boys all surrounding Krishna. So looking at Krishna, they felt Krishna is really attached to me because he's just looking at me. And everyone felt the same thing. Krishna is really attached to me, he's only looking at me. He's only one Krishna, he has mystic power. And at the top of the painting there you see Lord Brahma again, riding on the back of his swan carrier, because he had come to witness Krishna's pastimes, and he happened to come on that very same day that the Aghasura demon was killed. And he saw the pastime of this little boy killing this big demon. So he was very puzzled. How powerful is this little boy, Krishna? So he started thinking in that way, he crossed an etiquette standard and thought, maybe if I show some of my mystic power, I can then see how Krishna will respond and see more of the limits of his mystic power. So that was his idea. Here's the text from chapter 13. Brahma, who resides in the higher planetary system in the sky, had observed the activities of the most powerful Krishna in killing and delivering Aghasura, and he was astonished. Now, that same Brahma wanted to show some of his own power and see the power of Krishna, who was engaged with his childhood pastimes, playing as if with ordinary cowherd boys, pictured below with that painting. Therefore, in Krishna's absence, Brahma took all the boys and calves to another place. Thus he became entangled, for in the very near future he would see how powerful Krishna was. So what happened was, while the boys were having their lunch, the calves started to graze for greener pastures. And when the cowherd boys noticed the calves had wandered away, they immediately stopped their lunch and were ready to go gather up the calves. And Krishna said, no, you finish your lunch, I'll gather the calves. So while Krishna was going to search for the calves, what did Brahma do? He came, swooped in, and took all the cowherd boys and hid them in a cave. And so then he went back. So the calves were in the cave, as you see the painting, and the cowherd boys are in the cave. First the calves went, and then he went and gathered up the cowherd boys, put them in the cave. And then he went back to see what Krishna would do now when the calves and the cowherd boys were missing. And much to his surprise, he saw all the calves and cowherd boys still sitting there, having their lunch. So he was bewildered. This is the vimohan. He was bewildered. So he went back to the cave, and there they were in the cave. And he went back to the place where they're having lunch, and there they were having lunch. What's this? How is this possible? And then Krishna very mercifully displayed not only, as you see in the painting here, the cowherd boys having their lunch, but each one of the cowherd boys having lunch manifested simultaneously identical forms of Lord Narayan, with 4 arms, decorated with all the symbols of Vishnu, and surrounded by all the demigods and the personified Vedas and all of his potencies. Here's a list of some of his potencies. All the Vishnu Murtis were surrounded by the opulences, headed by Anima Siddhi. This is Anima. These is one of the mystic potencies. There's 8 primary mystic potencies, and Anima is one of them, and they were all personified. And by the mystic potencies headed by Aja, and by the 24 elements for the creation of the material world, headed by the Mahatattva. So this comes up later. It comes up earlier in the Srimad Bhagavatam, where the process of creation is described, and in the process of creation there's material elements that are manifest, and they're manifest as potencies of Krishna. So here he's seeing the spiritual counterpart of those material potencies. They exist in the spiritual world, and spiritual potencies have their material counterpart, or the other way. Material potencies have their spiritual counterpart. And the spiritual counterpart is the basis and support, the foundation of the existence of everything that's material. Then Lord Brahma saw that Kala, which means time, Swabhava, which means nature, Samskara, that's impressions, Kama, desire, Karma, activity, and the gunas, the modes of nature, their own independence being completely subordinate to the potency of the Lord, had all taken forms and were worshipping those Vishnumurtis. So all living entities in their spiritual counterpart identity were surrounding each one of these so many forms of Narayan. Also for each of the calves, same thing. And so what's the limit of the potency of the unlimited? There's no limit. He was overwhelmed seeing all of this. Nija Mahi Mani, this is his own excellences or own potencies. So Brahma, seeing all of this, was overwhelmed, and then suddenly all those forms, poof, they just disappeared, and remaining was Krishna standing with yogurt and fruit in one hand and smilingly looking at Lord Brahma. You wanted to see the limit of my potencies? Very well. Here's the unlimited potencies. There's no limit to them. So that's the end of the chapter 13, and then just a quick summary of chapter 14. That's his prayers. In his prayers, he explains that the means of knowing that which is not knowable, because the unlimited, how can you know the unlimited? Because we're limited. But it's knowable by bhakti, and the unknowable has unlimited potencies. So it's understood, all of this is understood through the medium of bhakti. That's the main message of these verses 1 through 8. By empiric method, by speculation, not knowable. Never. Never. It's just the capacity of the intellect and mind cannot stretch to reach the unlimited. The transcendental is in another realm. So he offers prayers. Then here's one of those prayers in the first 8 verses. Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukaritam bhavadiyavartam stane statakshrutigatam tanavan manobhir ye prayaso jitajito pyasitaistrilokyam. Very celebrated verse. Those that have familiar with the Bhagavatam know that this verse. Here's the translation. Those who, even while remaining situated in their established social positions, this is us, throw away the process of speculative knowledge, that jnana process, the first line. Jnane, prayasa means endeavoring. Those who endeavor to understand reality or truth with a capital T by speculative method, udapasya, they throw that effort far away. They offer their obeisances, namanta eva, and jivanti. They offer all respects to descriptions of your personality and activities, dedicating their lives to these narrations. This is the bhakti process. Hearing the activities and form and qualities and name of the personality of Godhead, which are vibrated by you personally and by your pure devotees, certainly conquer your lordship. It's a very interesting notion. The living entities are jita, or conquerable, in contrast with Krishna, who is unconquerable, ajita. So, although he is certainly unconquerable, he becomes conquered by those who engage in devotion in the way that's being described. So we'll say it slowly again. Bhakti process includes letting go, leaving to the side the tendency to understand truths of life by speculative method, just leaving that to the side, and instead engage oneself in hearing and remembering the activities of the personality Godhead as he vibrates or his pure devotees vibrate, and worshipping those vibrations, that sound, incarnation of the Supreme Lord. Then we can know the unknowable. Then we can conquer the unconquerable. The bhakti process has that power, which the speculative process doesn't have. Doesn't have that power. Offering body, mind, and words. Body, mind, and words. Shrutigatam tanavan manobir. Body, mind, and words. So we dedicate ourselves, the body, the mind, and words, to the personality of Godhead. And stane statak. We don't have to become a renunciate. You stay in your position, whatever is suitable for you. You don't have to, there's no have-tos about your psychophysical nature and how do you deal with it. You don't have to put it in a garbage can, or you don't have to put it in a straitjacket or artificially anything. You just live your life as is suitable for you, following codes of the Vedas, of course. So this is a very important verse. You see the painting here. This is Lord Chaitanya on our right, and just embraced by him is Ramananda Roy, who is a king or a governor in what is now Chennai or Madras. And he was in that position underneath the king of the whole land. He was the governor of that particular place. But he was a great devotee. So when the two of them met, Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Roy, Lord Chaitanya was taking the position of one who is seeking knowledge from this very learned Ramananda Roy. And he asked him a really elevated question. The question was, what's the goal of life and how to achieve it? Let's just talk about that topic. So that's where they began. And Ramananda Roy offered different verses, which Lord Chaitanya said, well, that's incomplete. Go further, go further, go further. And finally Lord Chaitanya accepted this verse with the understanding that pure devotional service, without any touch of speculative knowledge, is the essence of perfection. And Lord Chaitanya accepted, yes. So this verse that we just read is the essence of perfection, or the essence of the goal of life and how to attain it. So it's a very important verse right here in Brahma's prayers. Stated later in this chapter, text chapter 14, this statement is given by Brahma. You have already arranged to give yourself to Putana. She's pictured here, this demoness that wanted to kill Krishna. You arranged to give yourself to Putana and her family members. She had two brothers. And one of those two brothers was the Aghasura demon, who we saw the painting of before. And another is Bakasura. We're going to see paintings of both of them in a moment. So what service did she offer? She just disguised herself as a devotee. So since she, who just disguised herself as a devotee and offered that service to you, what are you going to do about the residents of Vrindavan? Because they've given everything to you. They're completely dedicated, lives and hearts, just like that text 3 that we read. How are you going to reciprocate with them? Here's a painting showing the Bakasura demon. Baka means a certain type of bird that has a big beak, like a crane, has a big beak. So this giant baka, or bird, came to try to kill Krishna. He was a living entity, could consume different forms. So you see the cowherd boys on the right, they want to protect Krishna. They got their sticks and were whacking away at the bird, but they couldn't do anything. So what did Krishna do? Over here on the left, he allowed, by his mercy, for his body to touch the beak of Baka, purifying him. And then he escaped from the beak of the bird and bifurcated the beak of the bird, and the bird was killed. Baka, the demon, was killed. And over here we also saw, it's another painting, cowherd boys and Krishna entering the mouth of Aghasura. And then Krishna defeated Aghasura and the cowherd boys are escaping. That's what the painting is showing. When Krishna entered the mouth of Aghasura, the demigods hidden beyond the clouds exclaimed, "Alas, alas!" But the friends of Aghasura, like Kamsa and other demons, they were very jubilant. Krishna is being killed by Aghasura, but it wasn't so. The other way around. But this Aghasura, not just he was killed, but he achieved liberation. Even when admonishing wrongdoers, Krishna is very kind. He gives them spiritual elevation. So then what to speak of the residents of Vrindavan? It's a very, very, very beautiful painting. It's an award-winning painting where Krishna is returning from herding the calves with the cowherd boys. Here's a calf, and up here there's some cowherd boys. They're just so playful and in the mood of friendship, in the mood of parental affection, his mother, Yashoda and Nanda. In the mood of conjugal affection, these are young girls who have articles to offer to Krishna with love. So the realm where Krishna appears is a place of love. That's one way to describe what Goloka is. It's the land of love. And so whether it's neutrality or servitorship or friendship or parental affection or conjugal love, everything is centered on Krishna, and that love knows no limit. It's a very special place, Vrindavan. Here's a scene where again Krishna is returning from herding the calves with the cowherd boys, and the gopis are so eager to see Krishna because all day long he's been away and they haven't seen him, and now they're able to see him again. Pictured here with wearing the crown, that's Radharani, and so many other gopi friends of Krishna, of Radha, and Krishna is casting his glance at Radha, and Radha's casting her glance at Krishna, and their eternal relationship of loving activities is being churned by these pastimes of meeting and separation. So here's a little paraphrase of what we just learned. By the hearing process, we develop such a loving, trusted relationship with Krishna that he will say, I am like this. You wanted to see me as I am. You wanted to serve me. Such a deep desire for so long, and I have tested you so many times, and you only chose me. Now, here I am. This is Krishna reciprocating with Lord Brahma, and Krishna will similarly reciprocate with each one of us. So now here's some of the prayers that come straight from chapter 14. Do we have the portable microphone? This is summarizing what Brahma understood from
Lord Brahma attempts to express the ramifications of the opulence that he has seen Krishna display. He prays to Krishna, O Lord, I previously was unable to either understand or see you due to the coverings of your own Maya, your illusory energy. But you are the controller of that Maya, and that was proved by Mother Yashoda's seeing the universe within your abdomen. Now, at the present, that universe is externally manifest as your inconceivable energy, and it is therefore all that I perceive. Today, by your manifesting, all the cows, cowherd boys, and Vishnu forms were being worshipped by all living entities. You've demonstrated that the entire creation potency. And now I'm seeing before me the original form of the unlimited, supreme, absolute truth. To the ignorant, you seem to be of this material world, although it is you who appears as Brahma, the creator, who appears as Vishnu, the maintainer. and as Shiva, the destroyer. To demonstrate that you, the Absolute Truth, is an unlimited transcendental person, you descend within the universe as avatars, and you take birth among the demigods, sages, humans, animals, and the aquatics. As an avatar, you then, by your spiritual potency, perform your innumerable, inconceivable, mysterious pastimes. Due to you, this entire universe, which, like a dream, is by nature unreal, nevertheless appears real, and thus it covers one's consciousness and assails one with repeated miseries. This universe appears real because it is manifested by the potency of illusion emanating from you, whose unlimited transcendental forms are full of eternal happiness and knowledge. You are the one Supreme Soul, the primeval Supreme Personality, the Absolute Truth, self-manifesting, endless and beginningless. You are eternal and infallible, perfect and complete, without any rival, and free from all material designations. Your happiness cannot be obstructed, nor have you any connection with material contamination. Indeed, you are the indestructible nectar of immortality. By the grace of his spiritual master, a jnani can mix bhakti with his jnana. He will then be able to see you as the soul of all souls. He will be able to see you as the super soul of his own self. This vision will allow him to cross the ocean of material existence. For one who has thus realized you, the illusory energy at once subsides, for he is free of the false vision of perceiving anything as separate from you. Seeing you with this vision of knowledge and remaining in knowledge of you, devoid of the false perceptions that are the cause of the existence of the material world, his ignorance and illusion cease. Therefore, through knowledge of you and knowledge of himself as your eternal servant, neither liberation nor bondage have meaning for him, just as day and night have no meaning for one present on the sun planet. How foolish are the jnanis! How foolish are the Mayavadis! They are fools because they consider your form as a manifestation of illusion. How foolish are the conditioned souls! Regardless of how intelligent they think themselves as being, they all perceive themselves as their bodies, and they thus fail to see their self as part of you. They are all fools because they reject you, and in so doing, they search for the Supreme Soul outside of your Supreme Personality. How foolish are all of these so-called learned men! O unlimited Lord, the saintly devotees, who have added bhakti to their jnana, seek you out within their own bodies by rejecting everything separate from you. Indeed, how can discriminating persons appreciate the real nature of a rope lying before them until they refute the illusion that it is a snake? My Lord, if one is favored by even a slight trace of the mercy of your lotus feet, he can understand the greatness of your personality. But those who speculate to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are unable to know you, even though they continue to study the Vedas for many years.
A little summary. There's both chapters 13 and 14 are very long, and both chapters are filled with important verses, especially in the prayers. Very celebrated and standard verses that's good for those who are learning the bhakti process to become familiar with what their message is. One way to summarize in essence Brahma's message is the bhakti process alone can give understanding of Krishna. The bhakti process alone can connect us with that which is the source of everything in his personal feature. So he's extolling or celebrating the qualities of bhakti, the virtue of bhakti. And in contrast, the other systems fall far short. Particularly mentioned repeatedly in these verses, the speculative knowledge process. Because Brahma is the most intelligent person in the universe, and how did he gain that superlative intelligence is not by the speculative process, but it's by the bhakti process. So he's reconfirming something that, of course, he already knew, but he's expressing it now in very detailed and eloquent expressions to Krishna. Remember, he's not just a smart person. He is the creator of the universe. He knows details and details and details that modern science will never know. Because he knows the source of everything. He knows how all the puzzle pieces fit together to make the universe. But it's not by his knowledge capacity, it's by his devotional capacity that who Krishna really is becomes known to him. That's the primary emphasis and theme of his prayers. So Krishna is very pleased, but he's more attracted to the pastimes of the cowherd boys. So when Brahma finishes his prayers, Krishna doesn't even say a word. He remains completely silent. Brahma acknowledges the forgiveness that he's been granted. He circumambulates Krishna 3 times, and he returns to his abode, Brahmaloka, and Krishna goes back to finishing his lunch with the cowherd boys, because that's his heart's attraction. More attracted is Krishna to those pastimes with the residents of Vrindavan, to the most exalted glorifications of him through prayer and other form. Prayer has its place, and it's subordinate to its effectiveness is particularly successful when it's connected with bhakti. So that's a little summary of a very celebrated pastime that Krishna performed while making his appearance in Vrindavan. We'll see if there's some discussion on this. Our sound system makes noise like that every now and then, sorry.
Guru Maharaj, where does the three modes fit into that 24 elements? I thought they're also material, right?
Yes, they are material, but the modes are not part of the elements. The modes are generally associated with Prakriti, and Prakriti has its own category, material nature. And then, these 24 elements are like the building blocks, or etc., of what makes up the universe. And when time, which is mentioned, mixes with the totality of material energy, Prakriti, then the modes which were dormant become now activated. So the modes have their own category, connected more with Prakriti than the 24 elements. Okay? Yeah. Go ahead.
Good Maharaj. We were just discussing in Nectar of Devotion Bhakti Shastri class just this afternoon.
This afternoon's Bhakti Shastri class, okay.
About the 5 kinds of liberation.
5 kinds of liberation.
So this discussion came up.
Don't worry, keep going.
This discussion came up that devotees don't even want or care for any of these liberations.
Yes.
But on the other hand, we want to have
be with Krishna.
Yeah, Sarga.
On his. If Krishna wants you to come to him, that's Salokya Mukti. You don't say, no, I don't want to come to you. The point is, the aspiration for leaving this behind and going there, that's I'm at the center kind of aspiration. If Krishna wants, we can accept whatever Krishna wants. But aspiring for, in a self-centered way, I want, that's the theme that's behind not hankering for these 5 kinds. We want service wherever Krishna wants us to serve. That's and the highest position of bhakti. If he wants us to come back to Chicago, we'll come back to Chicago. Or whatever he wants. He wants us to go here, go there, we'll go there because he wants. Now, that's in the elevated position. There is an additional teaching that says, when we're in this position, it's good to want to be with Krishna. That's the Salokya. I want to be with Krishna. And when one becomes closer and closer and closer to Krishna, you can do with me whatever you like. Now, that's a very elevated position. Let's say the residents of Vrindavan, they want to be with Krishna. They're already at the topmost position. But it's different, it's not selfish. It's experiencing the exchange of love with Krishna. That's what they're hankering for. It's pleasing Krishna and the exchange of love in that activity of pleasing Krishna. It's very rare, very special, elevated position. But back to the question, these 5 kinds of liberation, the devotees don't hanker for that. They hanker for being in their relationship with Krishna. It's not, so let's say it again. It's not, I'll be in my relationship with you and you give me these things. That's the idea.
As you were describing about Agatsura Guru Maharaj, you mentioned he attained this Sayujya, merging with Krishna.
The body, yeah.
Yeah. So is that like merging with Brahmajyoti and they have to come back to the material world later?
It's not clear. Something that we know from Chaitanya Charitamrita is Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya says this merging has two kinds. Merging in the Brahmajyoti, merging with the body of the Lord. And he says, of the two, merging with the body of the Lord is worse. Because in that case, one sees the form and I want to become one with the form. And the Brahmajyoti, I'm recognizing that's the highest truth and I see the form in a different way. I want to become one with the Brahmajyoti. Now, but that your specific question was, what happens to the person who merges in the Brahmajyoti? Well, from the Bhagavatam we hear, when one merges with the Brahmajyoti, it's not a permanent position. That person who merges for some time may merge, but there's no shelter in the merging, and so they again fall. Or they have desire that's unfulfilled, and so they fall. They want a happiness other than negation of the material, and so they fall. We want activity. We're social beings, but there's no activity, so we fall. The intelligence of Ashuddha Buddhaya, in the language of the Bhagavatam, the buddhi, one's intelligence is avishuddha, not purified, so we fall. So it's a temporary position, it's not a permanent position, is the point. Merging with Brahmajyoti. That answer? Okay.
Svetamat Shivaram Prabhu asked this question. Srila Prabhupada mentions that the spirit soul does not get amalgamated with another spirit soul, so no Gadakasha, Potakasha. But Agashura merged with Krishna. How to understand this?
He merged with the body of Krishna. Doesn't mean his identity was lost. Rather, his merging means one's identity is suspended. You don't become another entity, or two entities become one entity. That's not what it means. But one's personal identity is lost, covered, or subdued.
This is from Gopinath. Did Bakashura go to Goloka or Brahmajyoti?
Brahmajyoti, well, he went to the body of Krishna. Neither of those two. Certainly didn't go to Goloka. He wasn't engaged in devotional service, so he didn't go to Goloka. And either the Brahmajyoti, but it specifically says he merged in the body of Krishna, so he entered the body of Krishna. Now exactly what does that mean? You know, if somebody says, what exactly does that mean? I don't know exactly what that means. But it's not losing his identity. Suspended.
This question is from Ranga Mataji. If we are given with any one of these five mukti, will we have opportunity to continue to have relationship with Krishna?
Sure.
And will we still have opportunity to go back to Goloka?
Well, you can go back to Goloka in any one of the four kinds of liberation. Commonly, the sarupya, having a form like the Lord, means in Vaikuntha, commonly there's variegation there also, or variegatedness. but commonly there are forms that look like the forms of the Lord. That's the Sarupya. And having opulences like the Lord, that's available in Vaikuntha and in Goloka. The devotees of Goloka have immense opulences also. So that's my answer. It's not that this means if one gets one of the 4 kinds of Vaishnava liberations, then you're excluded from Goloka. That's not what it means.
And this question is from Mahendri Mataji. In the class, it was mentioned that there is a spiritual equivalent to everything that is material.
Yes.
Is there anything in the spiritual that is equivalent to birth and death? And this is an old age.
Tricky question. There must be, but I'm not able. Like, for example, Nanda is the father and Krishna is the son in Goloka. So there's age, at least the appearance of age in Goloka. There's young, and then there's old, so old age. As far as birth, there's no pastime of birth in Goloka, but there's the bhava that Krishna is our child. So although there's no pastime, there's the bhava of that. Now death, it's described, there's no death to that which is deathless, but there's some sense of danger which may result in death, although there's no danger, but there's the bhava of that. So that's the best I think I can do with this question. There's not the physical or the manifestation of birth, death, disease, and old age doesn't exist in the spiritual world, but the sensibility of elder and younger, the sensibility of this is my child, this is my mother, father, that sensibility is there, the bhava is there. The sense of danger is there, although there's no danger. So it's in a bhava form. That's, I think, the best I can do.
And this question is from Rupa Vilas Prabhu. Is merging in Krishna same as merging in Mahavishnu?
I don't know about merging in Mahavishnu. If what he means is at the time of cosmic annihilation, the living entities enter into the body of Vishnu, then the answer is no, it's not the same. The living entities are differentiated within the body of Vishnu. Their physical forms are not there because Prakriti has been withdrawn. Their individual identity is sustained. It's just there's no time energy and there's no Prakriti. So they're just in this deep sleep state. So it's not the same as merging into the body, what Shishupal did. Or what Arishtasura did. Not Arishtasura. Agasura.
And Virajita Mataji asks, related to question above, how does one discern the will of Krishna in regards to one's life in any moment?
Well, Guru Sadhu Shastra. And if one is a very elevated soul, they receive dictation directly from Krishna. But for those of us that aren't so elevated, we're guided by Guru Sadhu Shastra to know.
Amara Mataji asks, how does one know that their feelings for Krishna or his parts and parcels are true or pure?
How does one know?
That their feelings for Krishna or his parts and parcels are true?
Or his part and parcels, that means like your family members, are true? Are pure. Well, we can understand that we're not pure. But how do we know when that pure, when the bell ring, when it's pure? Well, there's nothing other than that one thing. That is attachment to Krishna. And when that stage is reached, then it's pure. We have a long ways to go.
This question is from Ananda Prabhu from Chicago. We hear each of Krishna's pastimes is so potent to purify us in certain way, like demons represent something, etc. Is there a special benediction of hearing Lord Brahma's bewildering pastime also?
I'd have to look that up. I don't think so. It may be, but I can't. I'll have to look it up. I'll let him know privately the answer to that question if I find this whole topic that he just brought up is spoken of by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in 2 of his books, and I can't recall specifically about the Brahma Vimohan Leela, although it's listed. Now, obviously, Brahma isn't a demon, but the topic comes under that same category of Krishna is removing obstacles. I'll let him know privately.
And this is a question from Manav, a 12-year-old boy from Naperville. So he asked, looking at all the pictures that was showed initially, why I'm not seeing Krishna. He's asking his mom, why I'm not seeing Krishna, like how I am able to see you, mommy. Like how I'm able to see mommy, but why I'm not seeing Krishna like I'm seeing you.
Well, according to what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, he says, I'm not visible to people who are not qualified. Rather, instead, such people who aren't qualified, they're covered so that they cannot see him by his illusory potency. We can't see Krishna because our vision is covered by illusory potency. Krishna extends that illusory potency because we don't have the qualification. The qualification is pure love, like Amara's question about pure regard for Krishna. When we have pure regard for Krishna, it's not like it's mechanical, but Krishna may and will remove his covering, the illusory potency covering, and then we can see him like you can see your mother or see anyone else.
And this question is from Shivatsa, Sumangalamate's son. What happens to Garbhodakshay Vishnu after annihilation? I mean, how does the disappearance happens?
It's a very detailed description found in a couple of places in the Bhagavatam. But Garbhodakshay Vishnu expands from Mahavishnu. So when the universes are withdrawn, Garbhodakshay Vishnu again re-enters into Mahavishnu because he's just an expansion of Mahavishnu. And Mahavishnu continues to recline even when the universes are withdrawn, because he's lying on the causal ocean. And then when he breathes again, the universes start to come out from the pores of his skin. And then Garbhodakshay Vishnu is expanded from Mahavishnu into each universe. So he's occasionally manifest, but eternally existing in this feature or that feature.
This question is from Shri Radhika Mataji. Every time you show the recorded presentation on Lord Brahma's prayer, I'm intrigued by his words. It says, one cannot appreciate a rope unless one has refuted the illusion that it's a snake. In my stage, it seems like I am practicing a shadow of devotion service. It's not the real thing. I'm not chanting the real name, but I'm feeling happiness even within those shadow practices. How to have an impetus to go beyond these shadow happy experiences and go to the real holy name, the real devotion service, because even this is providing so much solace in the desert of the material world.
Fantastic question. And the answer is the same as what you're doing now, which is through sound vibration that is emanating from the spiritual realm. And we hear that sound vibration with becoming purified senses that's coming from that spiritual realm, and that connects us with the spiritual realm. And then the full happiness can come into our experience, which is what we're hankering for. So it's to continue with the same process, purification and connecting. I'm saying and there's purification, that's the contamination that's within consciousness, and then the connection is the pure consciousness. So continue with the process, and that connection is experienced, unimpeded.
And this is from Lingaraji Prabhu. Why is it Sankhya philosophy propagated by Lord Kapila is considered as one of the speculative philosophies along with the philosophies given by other 5 sages like Gautama, Kanda, etc.?
I don't understand his question, do you?
So, these philosophies by Gautama, Kanda.
Yeah, they're atheistic philosophies.
And why is Sankhya philosophy by Lord Kapila is considered as one of the speculative philosophies?
Well, there are impersonals who construe or who study Sankhya in an atheistic approach. It's not intended that way. It's not how Kapila gave it. That is to say, how Kapila gave it was, it leads to meditation on Supersoul and eventually pure devotional service. And there are atheists that don't read it that way. There are atheists that read Bhagavad Gita or impersonalists, that read Bhagavad Gita as an impersonal approach. Like that. Okay. Anything? Okay. So thank you very much for joining, all of you, and Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada.
7 o'clock.
Huh?
Tomorrow's session at 7.
Yeah. The morning class, thanks for the reminder. The morning class will be 7 o'clock Eastern Time, Central Time, instead of 7:30 as it was this morning. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.